And the thing that really stuck out was reposting a racist Telegraph cartoon. I was like, what?
Nothing
What?
racist about that cartoon at all.
Oh my God. It's a Mac cartoon. I got told verbally that my political associations in the Reform Party prohibited me from being a damper mould inspector.
And if this had happened to a Conservative member of the Conservative Party, the Labour Party, the Liberal Democratic Party, I would have been just as outraged. This is political witch hunting, and this is what fascism is about.
I was purged out of the company
Yeah.
for my political beliefs.
Right.
That's end of. That's just what happens. You've got two types of people in the party, right? You've got native-born English people, Scottish people, Welsh, whatever, that want the country they remember back, or they want the country they've heard about back. And you've got people from an immigrant background that don't want their new homeland to turn into their old homeland. That's my perspective. I don't want this country to become another Iran.
Welcome to today's episode of You Decide, where we discuss the intersection of politics and personal freedom in the UK. Joining me today is Sabah Poursaidi, a Reform UK organiser whose political beliefs led to him being dismissed from his job. In this candid conversation, Sabah shares his personal story, but we talk about the broader implications of free speech and political diversity in the workplace and the impact the Reform Party is having so far. Very welcome to the show, Sabah. Thank you so much for coming. I made a video after I heard what happened to you through the Free Speech Union, which I see you wearing its badge, a very worthwhile organisation, and I've recommended everyone to be a member of the Free Speech Union. And I made a video about your case that you were working for this housing association, and because of your political views, they said it's not compatible somehow with the housing association, and they dismissed you. You are currently taken to court through the Free Speech Union, who are crowdfunding the legal costs for you. You watched the video yourself?
Yeah. Thanks for doing that.
Happy with that? Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I'm pleased that,
No, I was very.
I'm pleased
very
that you. But it's not
that.
very often that I'll make a video about someone and then I'll get a chance to talk to them. And from your name, you obviously have Iranian heritage. Your father is Iranian. Your mother is English. Yeah. You were born here. And we didn't know each other before, so
okay. No, not distant cousins or anything.
So it wasn't because, some sort of favour because he's Iranian. I just literally just felt outraged. I just can't see that sort of thing happening in England. This is why we left Iran. This is why my generation sort of didn't go back to Iran after the revolution, because your political views could land you in jail and things like that. So, I can't imagine this is happening in England. But this is now your chance to explain in detail what happened to you. So please go ahead.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's the kind of thing that you couldn't imagine happening. And it's not the kind of thing that I imagined happening at all. I mean, I was completely blindsided when it all happened. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a complicated story. I'll run through it really quickly. It won't take too long. But basically, everyone's finding about this now, okay? And that is because basically for the last 10 months, I've been trying to get the job back, right? I've been trying to reach some kind of settlement with Hightown Housing Association. And at every step of the way, it's been battered off, not forthcoming, or basically treated with outright contempt by the association. So this all started way back. I'll go to when I started with Hightown Housing Association. So the Telegraph article, you probably read it. Yes. They said that I'm a housing officer. Slight correction to make there. I was an officer at the housing association, but I was actually working in the recruitment team. So I was an internal recruitment assistant at Hightown Housing Association, helping people into that workplace. So organising interviews, running DBS checks, that sort of thing. And this is a maternity cover role, right? It was supposed to end last November. So in the time that I'm working at Hightown, my wife gets pregnant. I really need a permanent job. I need a job that pays better. So I was in a pretty good position in the recruitment team to see what roles were coming in and out of the organisation and what roles I could do. So a couple of roles came up. a resident involvement officer role, which is the role that I got. And then they pulled away from me. And there was also a damp and mold inspector role. Now, I mentioned that because we're going to come back to that later. Okay. So I interviewed for this role. Absolutely nailed the interview. 2 hours after the interview's over, I'm offered the job, right? I was absolutely ecstatic because what that job presented to me was a way out of recruitment, a way out of agency recruitment, something that I've been working in for, say, like 7 or 8 years, which, you know, it's just like I was always okay at it, but it already grated on me that I always seem to kind of be on that first rung of the career ladder. And this was a way out. Not only was it a way out, it was near enough double the money, right? I was on 4 days a week as a recruitment assistant, like 24K pro rata. This role was 37 going up to 39. So I was like, finally, I've got a job that's not recruitment. I've got a job that's paying me really good money at a time when I need it the most, at the time when my wife's about to have our second child. So everything was great. It's fantastic. I passed the DBS check. That was one of the only checks that I needed. And then I got 2 other references, which came back fine. So serving my notice in the recruitment assistant role, starting the resident involvement officer role on the 1st of April, right? Tuesday, right, before Tuesday before I'm supposed to start, I get pulled into a meeting room with the director of housing and the head of HR, like 2 people I know really well. And they say, Saba, because of a declaration of interest form that you've updated for us, we're going to have to withdraw the job from you.
What was in that?
So basically, this declaration of interest, right, is something everyone has to do when they work at a housing association, right? It's basically, I'm not related to anyone on the board, right? I have no other outside business interests and all the rest of it.
Those are all reasonable checks.
Yeah, reasonable checks, just to make sure that there's no sort of corruption going on there, make sure no one's sorting out a job for a mate or something like that. When I started at Hightown Housing Association, I put on that I was a member of the Reform Party. I was like, I don't think I really need to put this, but, you know, maybe, I don't know. And then me working in the recruitment team, I'm coming off a couple of other issues with like DOI forms. You know, one guy had like another company, and I thought, you know what? I better update mine because I picked up some additional volunteer responsibilities within the Reform Party. I was a county organiser for Hertfordshire. I was a deputy nominating officer. And I was also a prospective parliamentary candidate for Harpenden and Berkhamsted. Now, the important thing about that is prospective. It's not set in stone, as the party was at pains to make us know all the time. You know, some people were saying they were candidate early, and they're like, do not do that. So nothing was set in stone. And I thought, I'll update this just so they're not blindsided. And I made it really clear to them.
Because you wanted to be truthful on the phone.
100%.
Yeah.
I thought, you know, I've got nothing to hide here. This is all fine. You know, this is me being engaged in the community, you know, trying to sort of, you know, make a difference. A lot of the stuff that I'm doing in Reform, even talked about at the interview. You know, I didn't say it was the Reform Party, but I said, you know, putting leaflets out, you know, that sort of stuff. And I was transparent with them. I talked to the Director of Housing about it, talked to the Assistant Company Secretary about it, and they said, yeah, fill in the form and all the rest of it, and we'll see. So I did that form about 2 weeks before this meeting. So 2 weeks go by, nothing said, so I'm thinking, oh yeah, must be fine with it. And then this meeting happens, right? And when they told me that I wasn't going to get that job, like literally, like, I don't know, we probably can't swear on here, but
you can.
Like the arse fell out of my world. Literally, like everything just fell through the floor. I was like, I had the whole 2 months thinking everything is going to be amazing, to you're in the most financially vulnerable period that you've ever experienced in your life. So I asked them why. I mean, like, what happened? And they said, like, the views and the values, the Reform Party, are a direct conflict of interest with Hightown Housing Association's values.
Was this a verbal statement or
Verbal statement.
Did they give it to you in writing as well?
No.
Right.
No.
And who actually said it? Was it one person?
The
or
Director of Housing said this.
And was that on behalf of the board, or was it just her own view?
I got the impression distinctly that this was not her call.
Mm-hmm.
I got the impression that this was not her call. I think it was coming from higher up. That's just, I can't prove that. That's my own gut feeling, because she seemed really nervous in the meeting. She didn't seem like she was... The company secretary of Hightown Housing Association is a Labour Party activist. Anyone can find this information out. Yeah. Okay, it's on
her LinkedIn.
I don't know if it's on her LinkedIn, but it's certainly on the Dunstable Labour Party website. And she's a named executive as part of Hightown Housing Association. So that's there. So I'm thinking, okay, none of this sounds right. None of this feels right. But I kind of took it at face value that this resident involvement officer role is very public facing. It involves getting residents' involvement with surveys, what's going on. And this is something that all housing associations are legally mandated to do from last April, right? It's another government regulation. So this is like a mandatory role. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll take that at face value. Maybe it is too public and maybe it is a conflict of interest. Fine. So I said, what else can I do in the housing association? Surely there must be another place for me. This can't be the end of my future at Hightown, which was a company I really enjoyed working.
The damp and mould comes to mind there. Yeah.
The damp and mould inspector role.
Can't be any conflict of interest there.
I got an interview for that damp and mould inspector role that was going to be a couple of days after the resident involvement officer role. So I got the job, the job that I really, really wanted. So I said, okay, guys, I'm not going to interview for that damp and mould officer role. Okay. That role got filled, but they're hiring loads of these guys. So another role came up, exactly the same role. So I spoke to the housing director, Natalie. I said, okay, I'm going to keep applying for other roles in the company. I spoke to HR about this as well. I want to make sure that I'm not going to fill in this 2-hour application form and have the same result. Mm-hmm. So I want to know from you guys that I want to apply for the damp and mould inspector role, a housing coordinator role, and a couple of others. And let me know that the same outcome isn't going to happen. Okay. I got told verbally that my political associations in the Reform Party prohibited me from being a damp and mould inspector.
And as I said in my video about your case, it's not as if the Reform Party is a fringe party, is it? I mean, no. They represent the views of the 20% of the UK population. So basically, it's just saying 20% of the UK population can't apply for this job, which is quite discriminatory. Isn't it?
It's incredibly discriminatory,
right?
And it's it just flies in the face of the ideas of democratic involvement.
Absolutely,
and in the ideas of free speech, and also in the ideas of being a professional. Mm-hmm. I mean, sure, Trudy's in the Labour Party. Yeah, she should be able to do her job properly, and I should be able to do my job properly. It's just it shouldn't come into it, and it never did.
And I've got to say, if this happened to someone because they were a member of the Labour Party, even though I really don't like the Labour Party, especially for what it stands now, I'd still stand up for them, because I just think it's wrong. People should have different political views. They should be able to be members of the legal parties in this country. And if this had happened to a member of the Conservative Party, the Labour Party, the Liberal Democratic Party, I would have been just as outraged. So it's not just because it's happening to a Reform Party member. And I think you would as well, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course.
But have you had any support from the Labour Party or from the Conservative Party?
I've not had any support directly from the Labour Party. I spoke to some of my old comrades about it.
Because you used to be a member of the Labour Party. Yeah, because I used to be in the Labour
Party. This is the thing. I used to be in the Labour Party. I ran as a councillor in 2021.
Right.
So I spoke to some of my old guys there, and they were like, "Yeah, that sounds messed up." A lot of them have kind of moved out. I mean, what the Labour Party's like. Here today, gone tomorrow. A whole bunch of new people are in there now. So there wasn't much they could do. But I mean, I've had my old political rival, Nigel Gardner, who I ran against him in Harpenden and Berkhamsted. He's the Tory candidate there. He's been in touch, and he's like, Sabah, I'm going to try and raise some like cross-party consensus for you. That none of us agree with this.
Who's your MP?
My MP at the moment, so I actually live in Hemel Hempstead. So MP there's David Taylor.
Labour or Conservative?
Labour.
Have you talked to him? Have you contacted him?
No, the thing is, it's like I don't really want to make this too much of a political issue. This is really a democratic issue. Okay, this is really about people having every single right to run for parliament, to be involved in a political organisation, especially one that is ratified by the Electoral Commission, ticks all the boxes, does all the right things. You know, we're not just some like, you know, fringe fever dream, you know, of some guy with an ego. No, we are a proper political party. You know, we've got a proper manifesto, we've got a proper rule, but everything is done by the book.
So basically, you realise that you can't have a job with this housing association
that's
because
when
of your association with the political party.
That's when it twigged for me.
So then what did you do? Where did you take it from there?
So, I mean, like, as soon as this whole thing happened, I was like straight in touch with the Free Speech Union. Because I was like, I don't think this is right.
Were you a member of them before? Or?
Yeah. I've been. I was a member with them for 2 years.
Okay.
2 years. I think the second renewal actually came right round when I sent that first email off to them. So yeah, I've been with them for 2 years. But I'm interested in politics. I just like going to their events. You know, and have speakers there and all the rest of it. I never ever envisaged me having to use their services, because I mean, I'm in the Reform Party, but I'm not a politically controversial guy. I don't like to, you know, rock the boat or say anything for shock value, and I always kind of like, you know, think before I tweet anything. And I wasn't even very much of an active Twitter user, so I kind of like, they're not going to come after me, you know. I'm not, you know, not one of these people that just likes to mouth off all the time. So
yeah, in fact, when I was looking into your case, I made a point of looking at your tweets, and nothing controversial, nothing that's, you know.
I'm glad you agree.
Could raise the flag. I noticed that you followed me, which was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so they couldn't pin anything on there on you.
Well, they tried.
Really?
They tried, you know. So in terms of, so this is all going off to tribunal.
Yeah.
When I realised that, no, these guys are just trying to squeeze me out of the organisation, right? And when they present their defence document, because this is past arbitration, this is past sort of like reconciliation or whatever they call it. So in their defence document, they highlight about 3 or 4 of my tweets.
What were they?
One was reposting something Lee Anderson had said.
Okay, who's a member of the parliament.
Yeah, he was a member of parliament, right? And the thing that really stuck out was reposting a racist Telegraph cartoon.
Yes, which I mentioned in the video.
And I was like, what?
Nothing
What?
racist about that cartoon at all.
And I had to look it up. So I scrolled all through my Twitter and I was like, oh my God, it's a Matt cartoon.
Yes.
Right? And like everyone can see from the Telegraph, I'm holding the phone up with this Matt cartoon. But it's basically just this bloke sat on the sofa telling his wife, don't worry, dear, I don't think the UAE buying the Telegraph is going to change the cartoons. And the wife's in the back with a burqa.
It's nothing to do with race. It's just,
it was just, you know.
It's all about UAE buying the Daily Telegraph and making a joke that nothing is going. They're not going to have any influence.
Exactly. It's not even a pop at Muslims.
No,
you know. I mean, like, because every Muslim practices their religion differently.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, this is a pop at the UAE and how the UAE run things in a very sexist way. Let's just put it out there. Yeah, it's not a liberal country.
And that cartoon was, I mean, you reposted it. So, I mean, no one's ever said anything about the cartoon. No. You know, it's not like I don't know, that Alison Pearson's case, for example, where, you know, it was being investigated and that. No one's classed that as a racist cartoon. So anything else then? So
that's kind of like what they pinned it on. But also in terms of in the meeting that I had with them, they kind of fleshed out like the conflicts of interest. Okay, because I was like, well,
Why is it?
what on earth am I conflicting with you on?
Yeah.
And they say, well,
Especially as a damp and mould inspector.
I will get into that. We will come back to that damp and mould inspector. But they said, so the Reform Party, not me, the Reform Party. Okay, the Reform Party believe in no immigration. That's not true. We house migrants and refugees. The Reform Party want to get rid of all net zero measures. Not true. We want to be a net zero company. The Reform Party opposes building on greenbelt land, right? Everyone does. We build on greenbelt land, okay? And I was like, I never got a vote on these values. None of my colleagues ever got a vote on these values. I mean, like, what makes your values superior to mine as a free-thinking British citizen? You know, it's just like, what? And how can you basically come out with these political proclamations, which most of them just kind of seem like this is just the way you run your business. This is just the way that you run the housing association. Is this all like some political manifestation? You know, and it's just like the whole thing stunk to high heaven for me. And when I was barred from the other positions, that's when I kind of knew that this is going deeper. This is not just, oh, you know, we're worried about you being in a public-facing role when you've got another public-facing role, one which I said I would happily give up.
This is political witch hunting, and this is what fascism is about. You know?
I was purged out of the company for my political beliefs.
Right.
That's end of. That's just what happens. And the thing is, and I know I was purged out of the company for my political beliefs, because in that meeting, and I'm not proud of it, I told them I will give it all up. I will resign from the Reform Party. I will give up my Hertfordshire coordinator title. I will step down as a PPC. I was ready to give all of it up because I was looking at finally being financially secure and stable at the most vulnerable moment in my life with another kid on the way. And I thought, I'm not going to put my family's future in jeopardy for this. I'm running in a safe seat. They don't need me to do this. You know, no one needs me doing what I'm doing. So it was a no-brainer for me, but still didn't matter. Didn't matter. The decision had already been made. That role was not for me. No right to be forgotten. No right to go back on anything like that. You know.
But at least with the damp and mould inspector, I mean, did you argue your case? I mean, there's absolutely no conflict. I mean, that's nothing to do with immigration. That's nothing to do with net zero.
I just had to laugh. Because at that stage, I knew what it was about, and they were just digging a grave for themselves. I kind of decided, I'm probably going to take this to tribunal. And then when they start doing this stuff, I was like, what are you guys doing? You can't just exclude someone from 95% of an organisation for membership of a political party or for tweets.
But all this happened when?
This all happened basically last week of March last year.
Right.
Till about the end of April.
But it was only publicised recently?
Only publicised recently because
what happened?
All that while I was basically trying to get the job back, right? They made it clear that I wasn't going to have that job back, which they only made clear after the general election, right? So this is all going on, right? I'm absolutely wigging out about being unemployed in the next few months, and then a kid coming even sooner, and then the general election's called. You know, I mean, like the timing couldn't have been worse. But anyway, kept asking for the job back, and some admission of guilt on their part, and like a very, very modest like settlement. We're talking about like 10, 20K just for damages, right? And they're saying we'll decide after the election. I think they wanted me to keep quiet while the general election was happening, which I did, right? And I've kept quiet all along this time because I was always hoping for some settlement so I could still keep working there because it was a good place to work. Everyone there was really nice. And basically, I'm trying to sort my life out after the general election. I'm trying to sort a new job out. I can't be taking a housing association to tribunal on my own. I don't have the money for it. I didn't have the time for it. And this is all kind of coming out now because, I'm finally in that position where I kind of feel on the front foot. Everything else was reactive last year. Last year was probably one of the most stressful years of my life. And the Free Speech Union had been great, right? They'd been absolutely solid. They helped fund my reconciliation. They helped fund the initial letters of claim. And I had some other contacts that put me in touch with a really good employment solicitor. And then it comes to December last year, that we're sitting down with these guys at the Free Speech Union and we're saying look, they're not going to settle. They're not going to give me my job back. And they're like, okay, so we're going to have to go to employment tribunal, get your solicitor to give us a figure and we'll fundraise for that. That'll go straight to your solicitor and then you can actually fight for the justice you deserve, right? And this is the fantastic thing about the Free Speech Union and what they do, right? As soon as you're in touch with them, they get straight back to you. They do what they can with the limited resources that they've got. And when it needs to go further, they're like, okay, we'll put it out there to the public. We can't
crowdfund it.
Yeah, we'll crowdfund it.
Which is what they're doing for you now.
Which is what they did for me now.
They're aiming for 28,000, and as we speak, how much is collected?
As we speak, we are on. This is the thing. I've been checking this thing constantly for the last 10 days. So we are now on 22,500.
And just like with my last video, I will put a link to that crowdfunding for you. So to my subscribers who are watching, you can imagine this is a big issue. This is not just the one man's issue. This could happen to any of us. So it's very important that you win the case. So if they can help, please come and help. Yeah. Now, the other thing is we hear a lot about people defecting from the Tory party to the Reform Party. But you, as you mentioned earlier, you were actually a member of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
What made you give up with the Labour Party and move over to Reform?
Well, I mean, I ran as a Labour Party councillor in 2021. For me, my political position has always been the same. I just want a better deal for working people. That is it. I always thought traditionally, Labour was the party for that. These are the guys that stick up for the working man and woman. And the more I got involved with the party, the more I realised it wasn't the case. It was just a civil war. It was just toxic in there. A lot of bullying. And you were kind of caught between the left and what everyone called the right. But now I think they're just even more left. I think they're just the silent left, the left that likes to keep quiet about it. I mean, Jeremy Corbyn and stuff like that, everyone talks about the whole anti-Semitism thing and all the rest of it. My personal perspective, Jeremy Corbyn isn't an anti-Semite. I think he was just in the way. I think he was just in the way of a very quiet, harder left that wanted power, come what may, and he was just in the way.
Even more extreme than Jeremy Corbyn?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, at least with Jeremy Corbyn, you can see him coming.
Yeah.
At least he pins his colours to the mast. He talks about what he's all about and everything. And everyone's like, yeah, maybe not. I was very lukewarm on it. I was like, I don't know, maybe. Shake up the establishment a bit, maybe. And then Keir Starmer and his lot come along. And these guys have no scruples, no principles, will say one thing and do another. Nothing that they've done, anyone voted for, right? And this is what these people are like. And you couldn't see it at the time. You couldn't see it. But anyway, I knew this wasn't a place that I was going to make any meaningful change. So after the last leadership contest, I thought, you know what? I'm done. I can't work with these people at all. So I was kicking around in the political wilderness, so to speak. Came across the Reclaim Party, with Lawrence Fox, tried to get involved with that, and then kind of realised I just didn't know how serious Lawrence Fox was about actually making a political difference.
I did a podcast with him. Well,
Yeah.
he did the podcast with me. Did you
Yeah.
ever watch that?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, I didn't. I used to watch a lot of his stuff, and then he's an entertaining figure. You know,
But it's more a one-man sort of thing. It's not a political
he speaks
party.
passionately about cultural issues and all the rest of it. But in terms of, you know, a vessel for change, Lawrence isn't it. You know, I mean, and I respect what he does, but he's not it. And then I saw a Tice video on YouTube, and I thought, like, yeah, this guy's saying everything that I think should happen. Went on their website, read the manifesto top to bottom, and then called the number at the bottom of that manifesto straight away. And here I am. That's just how it happens, you know.
Now, one thing that they try to label reform with is being racist, being anti-immigrant, whereas both of us, we've both got Iranian heritage, we've got some sort of immigrant background. Where is it that these people that are either labelling reform as racist and anti-immigrant, or people that are believing what they're saying going wrong, what is exactly the Reform Party's position? Because, you know, they've got people like you, they've got people like Ben Habib, they've got people like Zia Yusuf, who's the chairman of the Reform Party, and you know they've all got immigrant background. What is it that they're not getting about Reform's policy about immigration?
Well, the thing is, they don't want to get Reform's policy, right? They don't want anyone else to get it. So that's why they kind of throw out these smears of like racists, anti-immigration, bigot, all of that kind of stuff, far right, you know. They throw this stuff out to stop people listening to us because we are talking common sense. And the reason that we're talking common sense is because we've got a lot of people in the party. You got two types of people in the party, right? You've got native-born English people, Scottish people, Welsh, whatever, that want the country they remember back, or they want the country they've heard about back. And you've got people from an immigrant background that don't want their new homeland to turn into their old homeland. That's my perspective. I don't want this country to become another Iran. And I don't see that because of immigration. I see it because of the way we're changing all of our behaviors, in the fact that we don't allow freedom of speech, in the fact that we are actively suppressing our own history, in the fact that we are censoring everything that doesn't fit the political narrative. That's exactly what, you know, goes on in other parts of the world where there are no freedoms. People came here for freedom. You know, my dad came here for freedom. And people that have an immigrant background have a unique perspective into this country, because you always kind of have 2 foots in both places. So you can kind of look at England with a new perspective. You kind of know what's different about England. I know what's different from England to Iran, and I know what's good about it, and I want to keep it that way. I know what could be worse, right? And that's what motivates us. That's what motivates us a lot. And that's why we can work in partnership with people from any background, from people, you know, from any part of the country. It's because we all have the same vision of actually protecting what is good about this country.
I always say, like, I find it really strange that anyone who's got, you know, double-digit IQ cannot understand that, you know, that surely there's something wrong with uncontrolled, unlimited, unvetted immigration. I mean, who can possibly support that? You know, it's really strange. And when you talk to these leftists and that, they, first of all, when they hear about your background, they expect you to think like them because they've got this stereotype image of what someone with an immigrant background should think. And then they get really confused and then they get very annoyed that you don't think like them. Have you come across people like that as well? I mean,
yeah. You used to come across that all the time in the Labour Party, and it used to really do my head in. They used to call them liberation groups, right? Liberation groups. And this is this kind of paternalistic, superior attitude that anyone who doesn't look like you or doesn't like the same things, even like along the lines of sexual orientation, that these people need saving by you against someone else who looks like you. You know, it's just like, it's a complete egotistical fever dream to think that people want anything other than a good judicial system, and the opportunity to make money and to look after their family.
And a safe place
And
to
a safe
raise your
place.
children,
Yeah.
away from all this rising crime and that.
Yeah.
So this is a good point now to come to where are we with the Reform Party at the moment? I mean, it's had quite a momentum, hasn't it, recently?
The
as someone
momentum,
who's inside the as an organizer, what have you noticed? Do you notice a shift in people's thinking? Because I think in the last election, a lot of people didn't vote because they didn't believe that Reform Party would get enough votes or get anywhere. Is that changing?
What's happening is, in the Reform Party, on the grassroots, what is setting in is that we are going from being a dream to a reality. That's what's really setting in for people on the ground level, right? And everyone is working as many hours as they can to put things in place like branch structures, like officers working in constituencies, like raising funds, like getting regular leaflet drops out there, all that kind of ground game element stuff. We didn't have any of that at the last general election. What we got at the last general...
It was very sudden, wasn't it? I mean,
it was very sudden. And you know what? It was actually a bit of a stroke of genius for Rishi Sunak to call the election when he did. Because it caught us completely off guard. It caught me off guard.
Because if he called it now, and the Reform was as big as now, there'd be even less Tory MPs in the Parliament.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As a move, it was like, evil genius, if you want to call it that. But this is the thing. The party has grown massively. The membership has grown. The infrastructure has grown. Come the next general election, all things being equal, we'll wipe the floor with them. We'll absolutely wipe the floor with them, right? And they can't escape it.
And it might be interesting for subscribers to know. I actually bumped into Priti Patel the other day, and she was telling me, they regret not having delivered in the last 14 years, that they ignored the mandate that the public gave them, and they've changed, they're moving away from all that wokeness and all that. But the thing is, they say all this, but I can't see anything in action. They're not, for example, with the two that in Manchester Airport that attacked the police officers, they spoke against them and that, but it was the Reform Party that had the initiative to bring a private prosecution against them. I can't see anything in action other than words from the Tory Party saying that they've turned the page over and they've changed and they're abandoning their wokeness. It's still just talk, just like they did in the last 14 years, and absolutely no action.
It's all they've got. Yeah, it's all they've got. And the thing is, when Brexit happens, like one of my predictions is that all the political parties, all the MPs are not going to be used to dealing with a post-Brexit Britain, where what they said and did could have an impact. They're not used to that. They used to be working within EU tramlines their whole lives, their whole political careers. None of them know how to do things, right? This is the thing about the Reform Party. Like, not just me, like all other candidates, people running, right? These are people that have run businesses, had proper jobs. They know what doing stuff looks like. And this is why we're able to do things like, take private cases against people. This is why I'm able to do things like take my employer to employment tribunal. We just do stuff. That's the difference between us and the Conservative Party. All they have is talking points, rhetoric, and an ever-decreasing voter base.
Well, I could talk to you for hours, Sabah.
Yeah, we could.
Thanks a lot again for coming here. It's been great talking to you, and I think you're a huge asset for the Reform Party. I hope they look after you, and I hope Reform goes from strength to strength.
And if there's just one thing I can say, just quickly on the crowdfunder. It's absolutely amazing that we've raised £22,500. I'm absolutely over the moon with that. We've only got a few weeks left. But what has been really amazing is the fact that 900 people donated, right?
It's not one big donation from one person.
900 people have donated, and you can put comments on there, and I've read every single one of them. And even people that have donated £5, and there was one lady that says, "I wish I could donate more."
Yeah.
She donated £5, right?
It's very touching, isn't it?
No, that means the world to me. more than that £5 is knowing that there's someone out there that supports me that much to do that, right? People from housing associations have donated. A board member from a housing association donated. He donated £100, so he was very invested in what we're doing. But this is the thing. I mean, I read all these comments and they mean the world to me. And there's so much negativity on Twitter and all the rest of it. Like having that stuff, it really does give me the strength to actually fight this all the way. And I know it's not just me that I'm fighting this for. It's for everyone in this country that's living under this kind of corporate tyranny where their employers' values matter more than theirs. I mean, companies employ you to work 9 to 5, right? They buy your labor. They don't get to buy your opinions.
Yeah. That's a very good point to finish the podcast on. Thank you. Thank you again, Saba. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Cheers. Thank you.